Welcome to Full Sail Live, where today we are starting off with the NFL Draft. The New England Patriots own the 15th selection in this year's draft, and there is a lot of anticipation on what exactly they will choose to do with it. After losing Tom Brady a year ago and a substellar year by Cam Newton last season, many fans think a quarterback for the future is needed in New England. Head coach Bill Belichick has undoubtedly been diving deep and doing his research on this year's crop of draft prospects. And while trading up and getting one of this year's top quarterbacks seems like a logical move for the team, Bill Belichick is not a coach known for convention. He is notorious for making moves that leave our heads scratching on draft day. All right, and we now bring on Scott Coral to talk about Patriots draft day coming up. And Scott, Bill Belichick, he's notorious for leaving our heads scratching on draft day, and he's had some big misses over the past few years, especially in the first round. It's been hard to question Bill Belichick, though, because of his team success over the years, but after a 7-9 season, is the pressure on Belichick to get this draft right?
I'm not sure if the pressure's on Belichick to get the draft right, but I think you need a mixture of both the draft and free agency to shore up everything that you lost when you lost Tom Brady and you lost several other people. You just had Justin Edelman retire. So, I mean, you've got a lot of holes you have to fill. Defensively, they weren't great, but they were okay. But let's just take it just within the last 24 hours. This is what I've heard about the Patriots. You might trade up for a quarterback. You might trade up for a wide receiver. You might trade back. You might trade Stephon Gilmore. You might bring Jimmy Garoppolo home. You might love Justin Fields. You might stick with Cam Newton. You might stand pat and pick at 15. That prompts Patriots fans to might lose their collective mind before the NFL draft. You tell me.
You're absolutely right, Scott. You never know what Bill Belichick is going to do on draft day. If you think you do, you are wrong. And you are right. The rumors are flying that quarterback Justin Fields could be dropping in this draft. In the latest ESPN mock draft, they even have him going to 15 with the Patriots. Do you think Fields is the future QB for them, or do you think they'll prefer to stay with someone like Cam Newton as they look forward?
I think the question that the Patriots have to ask is do they believe that Cam Newton is going to be better in his second season in this offense under Josh McDaniels than Justin Fields would in his first? Now, granted, he'd probably take a year of seasoning behind Cam Newton, but still, it's not game time. You know, it is not game action. It's not looking at how defenses go in the NFL as opposed to college. There's a different speed when it comes to NFL as opposed to college and high school and things like that. Mm-hmm. It's going to be completely different. I don't know if necessarily the Patriots need to fill that hole right this second. If Fields falls to 15, it would be hard to pass up. Mm-hmm. But are there other holes that you want to fill so that Cam Newton has weapons around him? That may be the question that you're going to have to ask. So I don't know.
We will see. But Scott, we appreciate you coming on, talk some Patriots draft talk here, and we will look forward to having you back on later in the show, talk some NBA. Moving to the NBA, the Brooklyn Nets seem destined to make a run to the NBA Finals this year with their loaded roster that includes perennial All-Stars Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. But will it be a cakewalk to the finals for this team, or is there a team in the East that can take them down? The Nets currently hold the best record in the East at 43-20, but this dynamic trio of Durant, Harden, and Irving have only played a total of 7 games together all season due to injuries. The talent is definitely there in Brooklyn, but can you just throw together a championship team without any chemistry? We'll have to find out. All right, and we now bring back on Scott Correll to talk some NBA playoffs here with the Brooklyn Nets. They are looking like the prohibitive favorites going into this year's NBA playoffs. Is there a team in the East that could stop this newfound super team, Scott?
Well, first, let me just say thanks for having me on. I didn't mention that before, so I want to thank you. Second, did you miss me? Because it was only just a few minutes ago that I was on before. So
certainly did.
As for teams in the East that could possibly beat the Nets, you always have to look out for the 76ers. Right now, Joel Embiid is playing, I don't want to say out of his mind. I think he's playing like he should be playing right now. Mm-hmm. He's dominating inside. He's also dominating the mid-range game, and he's shooting threes. Also, where he has improved is on the defensive end. And now guys are starting to come around him and start filling in those holes. Tobias Harris has played well. Ben Simmons is playing better. The Sixers are always going to be a team that the Nets are going to have to watch out for. The other team that is starting to come around now, even though they've had a couple losses as of late, but they won last night, the Milwaukee Bucks. Anytime you have the two-time reigning MVP in Giannis Antetokounmpo, and now you got guys starting to come together. Jrue Holiday is playing extremely well. You always have to watch out for him. Now, the problem with the Bucks is how much consistency are they going to have? Giannis is going to get his points. He's going to get his rebounds. Jrue Holiday is going to get his points. He's going to get his rebounds. He's going to get assists. But Chris Middleton needs to fill up that hole. He's got to fill that. He's got to fill the bucket, period, when teams are doing things differently against you in the playoffs.
Absolutely. I got to agree with you, Scott. I mean, for people to be writing off the Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis, the two-time MVP, it seems a little crazy to me, but you make a good point. It really comes down to, can Chris Middleton and his supporting cast help him compete with the super team like the Nets? And in the past, in the playoffs, we haven't seen that, right? It's been basically all Giannis, and when teams focus on him, they are able to seem to slow him down a little bit and not let him dominate the game. The Nets will obviously try the same approach, but one thing I do question with the Nets is, do you believe team chemistry will catch up to this team? I mean, of course, they have Durant, Harden, and Kyrie Irving, but they've only played 7 games together this season. Do they have the chemistry and what it takes to actually make it through a playoff run?
I think the thing that people forget is sometimes you don't need a lot of time when you're a superstar to gel with the rest of your team. Everybody else has to figure out how to play with you rather than you trying to find out how to play with everybody else. I think when you have Durant, Harden, and Kyrie, they're going to be able to play with each other because don't forget, they've played with each other on Team USA. So, I mean, they have, maybe it's 7 games this year, but we have a multitude of practices in Team USA and things like that. These guys have played together plenty. So I don't think that's going to be their question. The big question I think that the Nets are going to have to ask is, there's only one ball. Who's going to score at any one time? It can't be KD all the time, but it can't be KD on very few occasions. It can't be James Harden all the time. It also can't be him on very few occasions. Each of them has to touch the ball, and Kyrie's got to give that ball up too. So some of that is going to be who wants to be it in crunch time, and will the other 2 superstars allow that to happen?
I absolutely agree, right? It's going to come down to whether the Nets, are able to share this ball correctly. Who's getting the ball down the stretch? I mean, we've seen times where it's been Durant this season. We've seen times when Harden is on the floor that it's him. It'll be interesting to see, right? They certainly have all the talent in the world, and I mean, what looks like really one of the best super teams on paper that we've ever seen. So I gotta think we'll be seeing the Nets come out of the East, but you made a good point. There's a couple teams that could upset them. We'll be interested to see how that goes. That's all the time we are going to have here, Scott. I really appreciate you coming on, talking some NFL today and NBA, being a dual sport athlete, as we would call it here on Full Sail Live. So we appreciate that, and we will look forward to having you back on soon, bud.
Thank you, man.
That's going to be all we have for you today on Full Sail Live. Make sure to tune in for our NFL draft coverage starting Thursday at 7 p.m. I'm Paul Liacos. Keep it classy out there, everyone.